Join us this new year for new conversations at the Commonwealth Club.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's virtual Commonwealth Club program. My name is Kumasi Aaron. I'm the weekday morning news anchor for ABC7 here in California in the Bay Area, and I am so delighted to be moderating today's program. It is such a pleasure for me to introduce my ABC News colleague, Robin Roberts, anchor of ABC's Good Morning America, and the author of this new book, Brighter by the Day, Waking Up to Hopes and Dreams. So for 20 years, Robin has graced our screens with so much heart, so much humility, and she has brought so much positivity into every single morning, even during the most trying of times. And this new book is a deeply personal collection of advice and wisdom that Robin has accumulated over the years. And I'm so excited to talk with you about this, Robin. Of course, we're going to cover a lot in the next hour, but I want to encourage you who are out there watching to submit your questions in the text chat on YouTube. And of course, they will be forwarded to me throughout the program. Hi, Robin.
Masi, we got the memo. Brighter by the day, wearing orange.
Listen, it is a great Friday. We are bright, and I'm so excited to talk with you, Robin, about your new book.
Well, thank you. Welcome to my home here in Connecticut. We got both coasts covered today.
We got it. We got it handled. I just want to know, how are you feeling? You look comfy, you look cozy, but we watched on GMA as you celebrated 20 years, as you celebrated this new book, so much going on in your life. How are you feeling?
Oh, thank you for asking. I am blessed and highly favored. I am feeling really well. Yesterday, oh my goodness, my team came to me a couple of months ago and said, hey, we want to celebrate you. And I'm like, that always sounds good. Why? I had no idea. It was 20 years that I've been a part of the program, but I took and you know this, Kumasi, it's hard to do. I took my hands off the wheel. I didn't know anything that was going to go down yesterday, and just so incredibly humbled and grateful for the whole celebration.
Oh, I know. It was so incredible for us to look back at all of these wonderful moments just watching you. But how was it for you when people who you've interviewed, who you've been really a part of their lives over this 20 years, when they've come back to, wish you well and to talk about what those moments meant to them?
Oh, to get your flowers while you're still here. I would hope that everybody could experience that. And that's what it was like for me yesterday, from Michelle Obama, and the list goes on. India Arie, who I wrote a song with, Billie Jean King, who was the one who gave me the push to leave sports and to start there at Good Morning America. But what I really appreciated, that my team knows me. And so the major piece wasn't like a highlight reel of my last 20 years of being on a nuclear submarine and traveling all around the world. It was about selecting a few people, their stories, that I connected with. And that's what we do. You know that in your position as well. We're storytellers. And so I really appreciated that they highlighted a few of the people that I have met over the years and where they are now, and how that moment with us, on not just me, but with us on GMA, how it impacted their lives. And that was really special. And the fact that my team got me, they knew that I would much more appreciate that than just going through my different looks and things over the last 20 years, because there are a lot of looks,
a lot of looks.
Woo, woo.
Well, it was definitely nice to be a part of that with you, and definitely very inspiring. So we're so happy to celebrate with you and to celebrate this new book. My first question about the book is, what made you want to write it?
Oh, wow. I have to tell you, I was in the process of writing before the pandemic hit. And I kind of put it on the back burner. And then we went through what we had the last 2 years. And I really wanted to try and shine a light, be a light through the darkness that we've all experienced over the last couple of years. And it was really my tribe, who I dedicate the book to, and was the inspiration behind it. Because before COVID, occasionally in my dressing room, my glam fam and I would post a message of prayer and hope, just occasionally. And then being in my basement broadcasting Good Morning America for 7 months in the early part of 2020, I was really kind of like, what can I do to connect with people and let people know that they're not alone? And so in my kitchen, in my robe, I started posting daily messages and prayers, and people really responded to it. Mm-hmm. And then they were concerned that when I went back to the studio that I would no longer do that, but I did continue it. And they were the ones that said, hey, can you put it down in written form? Really appreciate the videos, but it's great to be able to pick up something maybe in the morning before I start work or when I get home. And I love that it's really a pocket size, you know, it's one thing that I heard from Kamasi from people who got an early copy of it before it was released. And I love the fact that everyone who reached out to me picked up something different from the book. There was something different that touched them and resonated with them. And that's what I was really hoping for, because as you know, my friend, our journeys are ever evolving, ever changing. Yes. And so to be able to go back and refer to the book, depending on where you are at that time in your journey.
Do you have a favorite part of the book for yourself right now?
Joy versus happiness. That's how I open it. And I really talk about that. And the reason I do is that we're all seeking happiness. Who doesn't want to be happy? You know, it's just, of course, that's what you want. But I started thinking and I thought, you know what? Happiness is conditional. It's because of something that makes you happy. Oh, I finally got asked out on that date. Oh, I finally got that promotion or raise. Joy just anchors your soul. You're sitting at the kitchen table and you look across at your loved one or your child and nothing is being said, but you just feel joy. And so I really want to let people know that we always are reaching for that macro, something big. And it's really the micro. It's really those little, and to kind of condition people to spot those silver linings throughout the day and build upon it.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite chapters. I think it was an awesome way to start because it kind of set the tone. And then you also started talking about happiness and sorrow, happy sorrow. And I thought that was an interesting thing when you just consider all that we've been through as a community, the country, the world over the last 2 years. Talk about that because a lot of people have had things that have made them extremely happy and things that have brought them a lot of sorrow.
Happy sorrow was something that my mother brought to our family when my father, her husband of 50 plus years, they both were the first in their families to go to college. They met at Howard University. Mama, AKA Daddy, was a Q dog and lived all over the world. My dad, Tuskegee Airman, 35 years in the Air Force. He was the patriarch. And when he died in his sleep, as we said, he went to bed one night and the next morning he woke up in heaven. And so there wasn't an illness. There wasn't anything to prepare us for his departure. It was just like he was gone. And we, as you can imagine, just absolutely devastated. And we were at his homegoing outside the church, and we were gathered in a big circle of family and friends, and we were just boo-hooing. And my mother was like, no, we're going to have happy sorrow. We're going to remember and honor your father with joy. Remembering we're going to be sorrowful anyway. We're going to be hurting anyway. So why don't we think of those happy moments? And so that's where it really started from. And when I've shared that with people over the years since that time, they look at me and kind of tilt their head and go, happy sorrow. Yeah. Okay. I kind of get that. It reminds me of the poem my mother used to recite to us about pleasure and sorrow. And it goes like this. I walked a mile with pleasure. She chattered all the way, but I was none the wiser for all she had to say. I walked a mile with sorrow, and ne'er a word said she, but oh, the things I learned from her when sorrow walked with me. And so just kind of knowing, of course, you want to be happy. Of course, you want to be joyful, but recognizing when that sorrow comes to still some kind of way find the silver lining in that. And there is really no silver lining in these last 2 years, Kamasi. My first and foremost heart goes out to those who were impacted by COVID because a loved one passed away. For those of us that, fortunately, that did not happen, it was a big reset button. It was a big chance to go like, whoa, what is really most important to me? How do I want to spend my time? Who do I want to spend my time with? And that's what I try to convey in the book, because there are a lot of people, we've heard that word pivot, pivot. I feel like, friends right now when, when Ross is like pivot, but there's a lot of us that did that. We made that pivot. I don't know about you, but I've heard from countless people who said, we're very blessed. We enjoy the work that we do. We're very fortunate, but there are a lot of people that they were doing it just for a paycheck. And these last 2 years, they're like, wait a minute. No, I'm going to pivot and actually do those things that bring me joy and that I've wanted to do in my life.
I think it is like a mindset shift, like just changing how you think about things. You talk about that in the book too. And I think one of the biggest themes of your book is optimism. And I was really excited when I read the chapter, Make Your One Day, Your Day One. And it was interesting to me to hear you talk about optimism like that as like a skill that even you had to build. Because Robin, I look at you and I'm like, Robin came out of the womb optimistic. She was just born this way. And so hearing you say that this is a strength that you had to like work on too. Yeah, that was really encouraging for me. So how did you do that? And how can we start that process?
And thank you for asking that, because, people think I'm Pollyanna. They think I'm walking around, the world is made of marshmallows. Here's no, I'm a realist. I'm an optimist, but I am a realist. And really with optimism, as I said in the book, it's like a muscle that gets stronger with use. You've got to get in the habit of being optimistic. And fortunately, from a young age, I didn't come out of the womb, but shortly thereafter, it's a choice. And that's something else I say over and over in the book. It's like making these choices for yourself. I choose to be joyful. I choose to be optimistic. And I sometimes, I got to change the way I think in order to change the way I feel. Because sometimes I wake up in the morning, I don't want to be optimistic. I don't want to. You can't
Not today.
Not today. I don't want to. And then it's like, Robin, it's a choice. Now, what you going to do? And then I just, I started meditating about 5 years ago, which I talk about a lot in the book, and it really was very helpful. And it's just being intentional with my thoughts, and it's just habit forming. So optimism is a principle that I kind of show people in the book how to make it a practice and how to really incorporate it in your life and make it a lifestyle.
You talk about changing your thoughts. What thoughts have you had to change, do you feel, recently that you really had to work on? And like, how did you do that?
Not so much recently, but I've talked about, especially in the 20 years and looking back. And I remember that first day, and I'm sitting next to the Diane Sawyer and the Charlie Gibson, and I had imposter syndrome. My little knees were knocking, and I had come from, ESPN and had always been involved in sports. And that's my wheelhouse. I mean, I'm wearing this WNBA I'm representing right now. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to be found out. They're going to realize, what is she doing sitting next to Charlie and Diane? So I had that insecurity that a lot of us, especially women, that we have. Even, Michelle Obama in her book, Becoming, she wrote about how she had the imposter syndrome. This is a woman with Ivy League degrees. The first lady has accomplished so much, and even she. So it just really lets us know that we're not alone in feeling that way. And how did I overcome that? By focusing on self-worth, not self-esteem. Self-worth is what we have. We have to believe that we are worthy. We have to believe that we are enough, because so many times that self-talk, I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm not whatever enough. And I just made a conscious effort and looked back and said, girl, you have worked your tail off. I went to school, got a degree in communications. I worked in 1, 2, 3, 4 local markets in like 6 years. And I'm so grateful every place that I was, 2 in Mississippi, Nashville, Tennessee, Atlanta, Georgia, before getting to ESPN. And I put in the work. I made mistakes. I learned from them. I try not to make the same mistake twice. But I was just getting real with myself, looking in the mirror and saying, you do belong. And that's also something I try to express in the book about having self-worth, that we are a limited edition, each and every one of us. Yes, right? You feel me?
I do. I love that. I'm glad you spoke on that, because sometimes you can feel like you're the only one who's thinking those thoughts. and then you just keep it inside, it gets worse. So I'm glad you spoke out about that and shared how you overcame that. I also really liked when you talked about envisioning your victory. And this chapter was really cool because you talked about how you envisioned having a partner before your partner Amber arrived. And I was like, Robin is telling us all the business, all the secrets. If you're waiting for your person to come, this is what you need to do. You left an empty chair, Robin. Tiba.
I did. Tiba, TBA, to be announced.
Yes.
Named Tiba. And that's what I did. So I was a third wheel. I was a third wheel with a lot of friends, and I would leave an empty seat. And we named that empty seat Tiba, for to be announced. Didn't know, but I knew somebody was going to be sitting in that seat one day. And we'd go to, be a regular at a restaurant, and even the server would go, Tiba, what's Tiba having? Oh, she'll have the chicken. Tiba will have the chicken today. And when I met Amber, we're going on 17 years now that we have been together. And my friends jokingly called her Tiba in the beginning. But again, it was envisioning. It was envisioning somebody was going to be sitting in that chair. That it was, I was so lonely, and thinking, as we all do when we're going after a breakup, and just thinking, am I ever going to find my person? And then I cannot remember a time before Amber. I cannot remember. I honestly can't. But I also, as you know, I kept it real in the book as well.
You did.
Well, people said, couples goals, the two of us. Oh, you call her Sweet Amber and you do that. We went to counseling. We had to go to counseling. And I was the one who was struggling in our relationship. And I raised my hand and I said, I said, I need this for us. I don't want to bail. I don't want to do like I've done in the past, and it gets a little bumpy or whatever, and like, see ya. And so I'm glad that I have a partner who was willing to do the work. And it takes work to reach couples goals.
Yes, I was really glad you shared that, because you were really honest about things within yourself that you had to check and be like, I need to work on this. Because Amber said, you know what, you do what you need to do. And you were like, I'm not leaving. You're not leaving either.
I know, because early on, as you know, Kumasi, early on in the relationship, it was like our second year. And I had to condition myself to be with somebody who was actually good to me.
Healthy.
Because it didn't seem sexy, because there was no friction. We weren't angry. That's all I had really kind of known in previous relationships. Not all of them, but, in general. And so I was right before Christmas time, and I was hemming and hawing. I was like, I don't think, and she kind of, what do you want to say? And I didn't completely get it out, because she's not a makeup breakup. She was like, if you break up, she's not going to be one of those that goes back and forth.
Yes.
Like, I don't really know. And she said to me, look, I know what you had before, and I know what I bring. If that's what you want, knock yourself out. And it kind of, I was like, no, I didn't mean that. No,
wait a minute.
But I appreciate it that she had her self-worth. She was very confident in the person that she is. And I couldn't be happier 17 years later.
Oh, I love it. And that is inspiring. Okay, so when we talk about envisioning victory and you look back on your 20 years at GMA, is this something that you can say that you envisioned 20 years ago, or even before that, celebrating a milestone like this, being at GMA?
I would love to say, oh yes, come on, see, of course, darling, I envisioned this for myself, being the number one show the last 10 of our 20 years that I've been there. No, it wasn't even on my vision board to be at Good Morning America. My first on my vision board was to be a pro athlete, but there's that thing called ability that you must have. Professional athlete. I had the heart and desire. It paid for my college education. And, but I did envision being at Good Morning America, and certainly didn't envision being there 20 years. And it reminded me of something that I posted when people were asking me about, this is something that you saw for yourself. And I said, no. And it just reminds me of God's 3 answers to prayer. And the first answer when you pray for something is yes. And you're like, oh, this is good. I prayed and I got it. And then the second answer to prayer is not yet. And the third answer to prayer is he has something even better in mind for you. And so that's how I look at being at Good Morning America and being there for 20 years, it wasn't on my vision board because he had something even better in mind for me than I had for myself.
I love that. You also talk about when fear knocks, let faith answer. That was one piece of advice that I really liked. Mm-hmm. And you also talked about how not all fear is created equal. So you were talking about some doubts are telling us that we're not ready. Like the first time that ESPN called, you said, hey, I don't think it's time right now. But then some doubts are really just keeping us in our comfort zone and keeping us safe. But sometimes I think, Robin, it's hard to determine which one is this.
I agree with you, Kumasi. I wish I had some easy formula to let you know what the difference is, and how you can determine the difference is getting real with yourself and knowing yourself. Mm-hmm. I know when I turned down ESPN the first time, I know why I did it. It was not fear-based. It was simply, I knew I was not ready. And I knew that, as my mama told me, you're going to be the first in a lot of things. Make sure, honey, you're not the last. And I did not, I didn't have that margin of error. So it wasn't a fear factor other than the fear of getting there and not being prepared. And then they rightfully terminate me in a short amount of time. And then when it became time to make the transition from sports to news, and we talked about this, you heard Billie Jean King sharing the story, remembering I was doing an interview with her for ESPN, and I was like, hey, Billie, can I talk to you? We had become friends over the years. I kind of talked to you after the interview. And she said, sure. I pulled her aside and go, hey, Good Morning America is wanting me to be full-time. They're talking about bringing me on. Well, like, what do you think? And she's staring at me like, girl, you crazy?
Girl.
and she was the one that said, you're afraid. That's fear. And I was like, yeah, you're right. You're right. And so it's just because of doing the work to get to know yourself, and knowing the difference between the fear of because you don't think you're good enough or whatnot. And just, again, just really knowing yourself. So it's hard to pinpoint. I agree with you, but it was, when I look at those two examples, it's crystal clear to me, the difference.
I love it. Okay. I'm going to take a break and ask a question from our audience.
Oh, great.
You talk a lot in the book about your family, about your parents, and I love hearing all the stories. And they would like to know, what is the best advice that you received from your parents? And what advice would you like to pass on to the younger generation?
Oh, wow. Well, thank you for both. I hope you don't hear my dog barking right now, little man Lucas. He's the best watchdog. Anyway. So, and you notice, like 2 years ago before pandemic, when you were doing something like this and there was some distraction, you were all embarrassed and all that. Now it's like, people come rushing in. You're like, whatever. I do have on something other than this right now.
That's good.
Okay, I'm not whatever. The best piece of advice that I received from my parents, one was from my mom and one was from my dad. I remember as a small child, and I'm the youngest of four. And, my father is a Tuskegee Airman. My mother was the first to do this, that, and the other on the School Board of Education in Mississippi, the first Black woman to chair that, the Coliseum Commission, Federal Reserve, older brother, two older sisters who have all done very well. And so when I was growing up and I could see how my family was so successful, and I was like, oh my gosh, people keep asking me, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? What do you want to be when you grow up? And I was like, Daddy, how do I answer that? How do I answer that question? And he kind of looked at me and he said, okay, daughter, this is what you say. When someone asks you, what do you want to be when you grow up? You tell them you want to be kind. And whoa, that just like put the pressure off of me of having to determine. I'm like, I can do that. That's a choice. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to be kind. And I remember asking Mama why she felt her children had done well in life. And it doesn't mean anything about monetarily or anything or our status or influence, but not. It's just that we turned out to be pretty good for adults, got into a little trouble, not too much, a little bit, but we turned out pretty good. And I asked her, like, why do you think that's the case? And she said, because she said, your father and I taught you children the importance of good manners. So something as basic, that was the best advice my mother gave me. That, and when I was in high school and starting to act up a little bit, and I would start to head out the door, and Mama, all she had to do was like, Robin Renee, you know the difference between right and wrong. And I was like, oh man, so we're about to get into some wrong. And I go, I know the difference. I got to go home. So those pieces of advice really helped me for my folks.
I love that. Do you have any piece of advice that you feel like is key to pass on to younger generations?
Kindness.
I know you have a whole book full of advice.
Hey, look, you know what? This is what I said. Because there were a lot of youngins that were interviewing me for my 20th, and they were looking at me with big eyes, and I told them, come on, take my place. I am not, I'm not one of those that's trying to hang on or whatever. I had so many people who paved the way for me, and I'm so grateful, and I'm trying to pave the way for others. And I cannot wait. We've got some really talented young journalists at ABC News, and I am just, I'm cheering them on. Don't rage. Don't rush me off the stage yet. I'll get there on my own.
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. But I would really say to young people who are in this industry, especially, yes, we're storytellers. We're interviewers. We ask questions. Listen. We're just, so busy talking, and normally when we're talking, it's because we're repeating something we already know. When you listen, you might learn something new. So my advice is to lead with kindness and grace and empathy, and listen. Please listen to the people you're talking to and with.
I feel like that's such a gift of yours, listening to people and really connecting with people. And it feels like you connect very deeply with people, and it happens very quickly. Is there a secret? Is it just you? Is it your energy? What is it? Girl, is it intentional?
It is. I am a Southern belle. All right now. I was born in Alabama, Tuskegee, Alabama. I was reared in Mississippi. I went to college in Louisiana, Southeastern Louisiana University, Line Up. I worked in Nashville. I worked in Atlanta. I'm a grit. I'm a girl raised in the South. I really am. And I think that had a lot to do with, even though my father was originally from New Jersey and my mother from Akron, Ohio. When my father retired, we stayed there on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and that's really where I grew up. But it is intentional. I'm always amazed that, especially in New York, when I would actually look somebody in the eye and say, good morning. And they kind of like, but do you notice when you do that? Do you notice when you do that, how it brings a smile to someone's face? So you don't know, you're just walking by and you say good morning or hi or hello, how are you doing? It's really so basic, and it's like low-hanging fruit. It's just, and as long as it's genuine, you know what I mean? Let it come from, and that's what I talk about a lot, about authenticity. Be true to who you are. Our family, we do a motto every year, and this one has been, be you in 2022. Be you in 2022. Yeah.
Yes, because I think people can see when you're not, and they really connect to you and your authenticity. So I love that.
Thank you.
This is another question. This is a follow-up to the conversation about your long-lasting relationship with your partner, Amber. This person wants to know, what do you think are 3 important qualities to have in a partner, or things that are needed in a relationship?
Communication. I mean, that is first and foremost. And that was one thing that we were not doing well. And our counselor gave us really good tools. And one of them was when we were talking to one another and we just were not, I was trying to get my point across. She was trying to get her point across, and it wasn't working, that we had a signal, and it was this. And it meant, we're going to shelf this. We're not getting anywhere. So let's just stop talking about what's our issue right now and come back to it later, because it's going to be aggravating. So communication is very key. And I like the fact that Amber is a Northern Cali girl. She grew up watching y'all there in San Francisco. She's from the Bay Area. I am a Southern and grew up all around the country and the world. And she's earthy, crunchy. And, we got, we're here in Connecticut. She's counting the bird nests that we have, and she's like feeding the birds out there. And we got this little wiggler thing in the bird wash, or bird bath. And not an athlete at all. She had no idea who I was when we first met, because I was primarily known for being at ESPN, had really just basically started at GMA. So differences are great. But even though we're different from each other as far as interest in this, that, and the other, that woman is a good heart. We are so simpatico when it comes to how we approach life, how we treat people. She is a good person. And so that's one thing. So it's communication. You can have your differences, but have your core values have to be in line. You can't get past that. And the third one, luck. It's just good old fashioned luck. There's no way. I mean, we see couples that we're thinking, how in the world are they making it work? And ones that we think will be together forever, and it doesn't. And so I am just very prayerful and very thankful. But I have to say, primarily, it's the communication and knowing that she has even when we have disagreements, we have each other's best interests at heart. And I think knowing that as a baseline is extremely helpful.
Here's another one from our audience. Over your career, you've interviewed thousands of people. So how do you prepare for a tough interview or interviewing someone that you might disagree with?
I love that question. And then, Kamasi,
Gotta get ready.
Get ready for you suddenly. It happens. That is I've been dealing with that. I've dealt with that. Oh my gosh. It's not easy. It's not easy. But as journalists, we have a responsibility. And that is to be not to have any bias to the person, even though if the person is not in a line with you personally in your values and what you believe in, that's not what you're supposed to bring to the table, because as a journalist, you want to elicit the proper response, true responses from the individual. Let the person, the viewer, make up their own mind about that person. It's not for you. And sometimes what I find that when I am in disagreement or feel, and I'm talking about someone who's there, if someone's just like pure evil, let's say if I were to interview Vladimir Putin, I'm not going to try and be, I would say, balanced. I mean, so there's a difference between that and somebody that you're not really feeling, you don't have the same opinion on some major topics. And I have found that when you just give people the unfiltered facts and let them make their decisions on their own. But I will say that I've gotten to this season in my life and career that I can raise my hand and I will be asked, will you do this interview? And I can say no. And I do that because I'm like, I can't. It's not going to be fair to the person nor to the viewer, because I will not be able to not show how I feel. And I shouldn't do that. It's not right. Yeah. So I do have to raise my hand from time to time and go, it's just not for me.
No. Yeah. No. Self-awareness.
Yeah.
I like it. In the book, you talk about continuing to challenge yourself, and you talk about you're at this certain stage in your career, but that you also continue to challenge yourself. So one of the questions from the audience is how do you challenge and engage yourself after all these years?
Oh my gosh, I'm constantly, I'm abundantly blessed. I'll be the first one to say, just blessed and so grateful, never content. I'm blessed. I'm a hot mess, but still blessed. But I am never, and not in an egotistical way, like I'm not content. I want more. Yeah, I do want more. I do want to do more, but not be more. Does that make sense? I don't want to be, I want to do more. And what keeps me motivated is the world is constantly changing. I mean, when you think about some of your favorite artists, be it actors or musicians, and they reinvent themselves and they're still relevant and they're still, and that's how I really approach what I'm doing. I don't want to just always rely on and look back on what I have done. I am as excited as I am about the 20-year anniversary. I'm as excited about what's going to happen next. I'm still motivated. In many ways, I feel like I'm just rounding second base with a good head of steam. Very grateful for all of my experiences, But what keeps me motivated, what keeps me still going is my curiosity. I'm always curious, and I've always pushed myself, and I'm always trying to see what more I can get out of myself. I didn't know that I would be where I am at this point in my life, and because I didn't set the goal of Good Morning America and all that, I'm like, how's life going to surprise me next? Everyone asks about the next act. I didn't know this act was going to happen, so I have no idea what the next act is. But I'm going to be ready. She's ready. She's ready.
Yes. And that's the exciting part. I love that. Another thing you talk about when it comes to being ready in your book, and I love this, you say, get ready for your suddenly. And you say that requires getting in position. So what advice did you have for people who are waiting for their suddenly? Like, when is mine coming? Or maybe they're trying to figure out, am I in the right position?
Those are twofold, and that's very good. Proximity is power. You can wish, hope, and pray all you want, but you have to position yourself for good things to happen. And I learned that through sports, playing basketball, the proper position to get a rebound, or on the tennis court, the proper position to hit the forehand or the backhand winner. So that really helped me when I was always preached about with the coaches about position. I'm like, oh, I can apply that to my life. I want to position myself. And it's just something that I feel that if someone is waiting for their suddenly, you can't really, it just happens. And the thing is that what the suddenly is that you can be in it and go like, oh my gosh, that happened. You know, I love when people would say to me when I made it to ESPN, she's an overnight success. Did you see me in Biloxi? Did you see me in Hattiesburg? Did you see me in Nashville? Did you see me in Atlanta? No, I was doing all those things before I got to ESPN. But to other people, it was like I suddenly was on the scene. So just be open. Just be open. And you may wake up and say that you are experiencing your suddenly and you didn't even realize it.
Okay, I like that. Another one of my favorite things was make your mess your message. And so you said that in the book, you said for so long that your experience battling cancer for a while, you would just say, that is my mess. That is now my message. But now you're in a place where you wrote, this is a war wound. I have a passageway, a transition to a new season. It's called aging. And I was just so struck by this whole chapter because I think a lot of times aging is something that people don't want to talk about. They want to act like maybe it's not happening. They're aging in reverse, or like, I look like I did 10 years. There's just a denial sometimes of a natural thing, of a natural process. So why did you want to touch on that in this book?
For the very reasons that you just said, Kamasi, that many people don't want to talk about maturing, about aging. And I remember, thinking of my mother, who was 88 when she passed away in 2012. And she would often talk about the different seasons in her life. And I didn't understand it as I was younger, but as I've gotten older, I absolutely understand it. And I read this wonderful book, Missy Buchanan, who was the author for my mother's memoir, My Story, My Song. And Missy, a couple of years ago, wrote a book about, and she has spent a lot of time devoting her time to those who are growing older. She spends a lot of time and has done a lot of books. And in this particular book, she was talking about what brought you joy as a child. What is it as you're getting older and you're thinking, I can't do this, I can't do that, things are changing, I don't have the joy. And she said, it was a simple exercise. She said, just sit down, what brought you joy? And so I did. I was like, playing tennis. I hadn't played tennis, girl. I couldn't even tell you the last time I played tennis. But 2 years ago, I started playing again. I am a kid. I'm that little pigtail girl in Mississippi on the courts. I mean that. Amber can tell when I put on my tennis gear and my little eyes light up, and I'm so excited. And so what if you played the piano and you don't play anymore, or you were in high school plays? Well, find the community playhouse. I mean, find those things that you remember that brought you joy. And so the aging process, in other cultures and other places around the world, it's celebrated. And here we're kind of, put out to pasture. And I really experienced that several years ago at GMA when we did this experiment. And it was called Walking in Their Shoes. And they said, whose shoes would you want to walk in? And at the time I said, I want to walk in my grandma Sally. She was 90 years old at the time. I want to walk in her shoes. I want to know what it's like. And at the time I was in my 40s. And so Good Morning America got some Hollywood people who gave me the prosthetics, things that made me seem arthritic. I mean, I looked like an 80, 90-year-old woman. And I got to tell you, the moment I walked out the studio, no one making eye contact with me. You know, and I went to the grocery store. I did some activities, and it was like I was invisible. And it's like, oh my gosh, why do we do that to the older generation? So I wanted to speak upon that and saying I'm embracing it. In fact, after seeing myself over the 20 years, I'm Benjamin Buttons. I am reversing. I look younger now than I did. I had the big hair and all that. Thought I was all that in a bag of chips. But it's just being real. And that when people were asking me about what's your mess now, you talked about cancer, you talked about MDS. So what is your mess? And I don't look at aging as being a mess, maturing as being a mess at all. But it is the issue that I'm coping with right now, and I'm navigating and kind of wanting to share that. And I was so happy that it was being well received, because it's usually a subject matter that we don't discuss.
It is, and I think especially as women in broadcasting,
yes,
it's just a whole thing that I even think about this. You know what I mean? I think women along every. But I'm saying, Robin, you just think about it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
That is the problem. But also the reason that we do is like how many, I'm not going to start naming names, but how there were certain women that were in a prominent position in our business, and they were shown the door, and a younger looking model of them was put into place. But I love when the public would object, because the public knew what the stations and networks were doing, and were like, no, they weren't going for it.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you're talking about that. I think that's a really important conversation.
We got a lot of time.
We got some time, Robin.
We got lots of time.
Let me ask you another question from our audience. They would like to know, covering the news, you've seen it all. Is there anything in particular that is concerning to you?
Yeah, it's concerning to me how divided we are as a nation. Sure, it is. It is absolutely concerning to me that we have gone to, it's like there's far left, far right, and there's a whole lot in the middle. But no one's talking about, it's like the either side that's really getting all the attention, when the vast majority of us fall in the middle. And my mama taught me that we have more in common than not. So why don't we focus on our similarities, embrace our similarities, discuss our similarities, instead of just spending so many time on our differences? And yes, we are different. We grow up in different parts of the country. We all have different concerns. And I can deal with a difference of opinion about the economy or healthcare or whatnot. But it's those issues when it comes down to just pure, like humanity, and we make it political. And I'm a proud gay woman. My life is not a political football. It's not anybody's political agenda. It's my life. And I think that is what concerns me so much, is that we don't try and find that common ground, and knowing that, and don't, when people say tolerate, no, accept. I don't want to be tolerated. Accept that we're different, recognize that we are, and find ways, though, during that time, what can bring us together. But it sincerely, I am a proud American. My father, as I said, in the Air Force for 35 years, so incredibly proud of this country. And it's just, it hurts my soul when other countries are looking at us and shaking their head because of how divided we have become. But I am an optimist. I don't see the glass half empty, half full. I see the glass. And I know the best is yet to come for all of us to be united.
And you talk about in your book how important it is to forgive, because it can be something, we see these divisions, it can be something that might start small, like a little disagreement, or we see things differently, that you talk about things can really fester if you don't address them and you allow them to become these really big moments and things that family members stop speaking or just whatever it might be. So talk to us about that, about how do we navigate such a divided time, keeping forgiveness in mind, allowing people to be who they are, and having sometimes these tough conversations to prevent things from escalating.
It's listening. It's listening to the other person, letting them have their say, not cutting them off, not trying to, like, for instance, when the war in Ukraine, which has just been heartbreaking, and what we have done and what a number of media outlets have done, I can't ask you to change your opinion, but I can show you a story that will make you want to change your opinion. So it's finding those ways of being able to show people that perhaps what they're thinking is not correct, but they don't want to be corrected, but you allow them to come to that conclusion on their own so they can do that. But we have seen how families have been divided over COVID, the previous administration, all those things. And you heard, everybody's had these stories about how some families have been divided. And it's crushing to think that it could get to that point with a loved one. But I really feel if we just take the time again to really listen and not be judgmental, to be empathetic. And I think empathy is totally underrated.
Well, you mentioned the best is yet to come. That is the last chapter of the book. And it just made me excited to think about that. But I also liked how you framed it when you talked about the best is yet to come and defining what to come means. Because a lot of times I think we shift to like just very much thinking about the future. But you think that is really about living your best in the present.
Living now. I wrote this song with India.Arie, and it was so great, her being a part of the 20th anniversary yesterday, hearing from her. And we wrote a song together, Beautiful Day. And part of the lyric is, life is a journey. It's not a destination. There are no mistakes, just chances we've taken. Lay down your regrets because all we have is now. And so I think when I know I can only speak for myself, sometimes when I'm feeling a little down or sorrowful, it's 9 times out of 10, it's because I'm thinking of something in the past. If I find myself being anxious and kind of like on edge, it's usually because I'm thinking about something that hasn't even happened. It's in the future. The only time I'm really at peace is the present, because that's the one thing I have control over. I can't control what happened in the past, and I have no idea what's going to happen in the future. And that's one thing I wrote. And, each chapter started with a different little phrase from somebody. And in chapter 10, Lighter by the Day, you can't go back and make a new start, but you can start right now and make a brand new ending. And that's how I look about it, like the best is yet to come, and just really being as present as you can. And it's not always easy. I know that a lot of people who are listening right now, they might have 2 or 3 jobs, they have kids, they have a lot of responsibilities. They're not getting the rest, the resources that they need. But I really believe that you have to hold on and think the best is yet to come. And I don't want it to be, Kumasi, it's really funny, especially when I was looking at some of the video of the last 20 years. And I kind of now romanticize some things from the past, but it wasn't so romantic when I was going through it, as far as like not having much money and being really scared. Am I going to make it to the network level? But now looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, it was such a great time. I don't want to be 10 years down the road from now, looking back at this time in my life and going, oh my gosh, why not right now go, oh my gosh, instead of having to wait and look back and say, that was pretty doggone good. I still have my teeth. I was doing all right.
Isn't that always how it is? Okay, I love that. So we have about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to ask some more questions from our audience.
Great.
Someone wants to know, is there a hobby or skill that you are hoping to learn in the next year?
I still want to learn a second language. I really do. Amber and I talked about it at the beginning of the year. But she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and that is our total focus right now. And her treatment has been a little bit rocky. Prognosis is good, but we had talked about learning a second language. I'm playing tennis again, and I want to improve. I want to get good.
Okay.
I'm enjoying playing, and Lara Spencer is a heck of a player, and she plays in leagues and stuff like that. So I want to try and get good enough. Oh, I shouldn't say good enough. I'm good right now, but I want to. But I want to hone. I'm the kind of person that when I am taking, I don't try and be the best. I'm not somebody who's obsessed with being the best. I am obsessed with progression. It's not being perfect. It's about progressing. And so I want to progress to a certain point that I can get out there and be in some matches. So continuing to play tennis and learning a second language, that's on my radar.
Robin, let us know when the match is, okay? We will come see you. I can't wait for that.
Oh my gosh.
Someone wants to know, what do you think is the best part of being a journalist?
The best part of being a journalist is it's not the glamour that people think that it is. That's not it at all. The best part of being a journalist is being a storyteller. The best part is being a vessel for people to share their story and to create such a space that I really appreciate, that I'm able to get some things out of people that they might not normally share because I give them a safe zone. I just love everything about speaking with people, connecting with people. Nothing brings me more joy than at the end of Good Morning America, when I feel that somebody, after they watch us, whenever they watch us at any point in the day, that they go, I didn't realize that we've shared something with them. We've taught them something perhaps that they can use in their day-to-day life to help them. And that's what I like about being a journalist. I think that you can really assist people in living their best lives.
I like that you said that you create a safe zone for people, and that allows them to open up and share with you more. How do you create that safe zone? Because I think that's something a lot of us could probably use in just conversations with people we love.
Yeah, I actually did a masterclass on this. I think the masterclass people are based there in your area. It's a phenomenal group to do something with. And it was really actually, and it's very basic. It's being genuine with people, looking them in the eyes, showing them that you are indeed, truly, and authentically interested in what they're saying. Lean in. I mean, literally, figuratively, is like leaning in. And I think it's because of that, and that's what I've heard from people, that after I've done an interview with them, and they'll go like, "Oh my gosh, you really seem like you care." And I'm like, "I do. I really care about allowing you to share what it is that you want to share, and making you as comfortable as I can, still having to ask you some questions maybe that you don't want to be asked, but trying to elicit the response that can be fair for you and the viewer." But I think it's just it's an authenticity, and I think that is what really puts people at ease.
And it's vulnerability too, because we didn't talk about that, but you mentioned that in the book and how important that is for you. When you were talking about your family, you had that moment when you went down looking for your family after Katrina, and how you at first thought like, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to be in trouble for having such an emotional moment." But that really connected you with people. It did,
Kamasi. I mean, when you think about 2005 was a time when, as journalists, we kept pretty buttoned up. We weren't, it wasn't like it is currently. And so 2005, I was sitting next to Charlie and Diane, fighting the imposter syndrome, had just left ESPN for the position to be the third co-anchor at GMA. Hurricane Katrina comes blowing into town. And at first, people thought, and we thought, that it wasn't as bad as it turned out to be. That morning, where the camera positions were, it didn't seem like, okay, we're all right. But later in the day, we realized how serious the storm was. And I was asked by ABC, because I was from that area, would you fly down there and report the next morning? And I was like, absolutely, because I had lost contact with my mother, who was unable to evacuate, and my father had passed away a short time before that. So my mother was there at our home in Biloxi, and with my sister and her children who would not evacuate because mother couldn't. And so I get down to the coast the night that Hurricane Katrina had come through, and I'm supposed to report live the next morning. I let the producers set up for the live shot, and I said, I have to find my family. I have to know if they're okay. How in the world am I going to go on national television not knowing the condition of my family? The producer, Brian O'Keefe, was very understanding. He said, okay, we're going to set up, you go, but please, can you get back here my airtime? I'm like, I'll do my best. I was able to find a police officer, helped me find my mother's subdivision. The house was damaged. They were fine. And I didn't want to leave the house. And it was my mother who said, go back out, let people know how bad it is here. So I get back to the live location just in time. And I start, and I'm the newbie with Charlie and Diane, and I'm in the field. And I just give the basics, like when we arrived here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, just giving the basics, the facts, the instruction, all very stone-faced. And now back to you in New York. And it was Charlie Gibson who was in my ear, my IFB, and he said, Robin, when you left here, you weren't able to make contact with your family. Have you made contact with them? And as you know, Kumasi, I mean, floodgates. I just started boo-hooing on live national television. And in part, I was crying out of relief that my family was safe, but also crying because I knew there were many people that were tuning in that morning, not knowing if their loved one was okay. And I knew how that felt, because that had been me just an hour before. And I thought for sure I was going to be fired, that you don't show, there's no crying in network television. And just the opposite happened. People really responded to the fact that I was in the moment, that I was being real, that I wasn't putting on some kind of facade, that this was my home. I knew what was supposed to be next to me where I was standing. I knew there was supposed to be a building. I knew what building that was supposed to be because I was from that area. And it just taught me vulnerability is not a weakness. It's not a weakness. And I think people are just really hungry for just to know that somebody is willing to just be real and not feel like they always have to put on a suit of armor.
Another thing I think there is maybe a stigma around is going to therapy. And this is a question from the audience. When you mentioned that you went with Amber, they want to know how we can remove the stigma around mental health and getting the help and care you need.
Thank you for the person who asked that question, and bless your heart. Yes, there were some people when they got an early copy or early outline of the book, they're like, you're going to put in there that you went to therapy, that you are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I am sure. I went to therapy after cancer. Everyone thinks, and I remember putting it in my previous book, Everybody's Got Something, and people really appreciated that I did, because people feel that after you go through cancer treatment, you are just like on a high. You're like, you go through a depression like you would not believe, because after the treatment, you're sent on your way going like, okay, good luck. Wait a minute, you're not checking on me? I mean, I'm not taking medicine, chemo, even though I don't like it. I mean, it's helping me. And I talked about the depression, and something that people rarely talk about after going through some kind of treatment like that. And the same thing with this. So I feel, to answer the person's question, that the more people talk about it, and more we are. I know we talk about it a lot on Good Morning America. We have not just celebrities and athletes who are stepping up and talking about mental wellness. We have experts that are talking about it. I'm going to tell you, young people, COVID, teenagers, they're going through it. We have so many friends and families, friends of family who talk about their teenage kids who are really struggling right now. And and are helped by knowing and hearing from different people who are in the spotlight, who are sharing what they're doing. Naomi Osaka, who the tennis player, for her being so vocal. When we saw Simone Biles, and we saw the reaction, some of it was good, and some people were like, "Oh, buck up! Come on, you're at the Olympics. You took someone's spot." And I think having these types of conversations, and there's no shame in the game of asking and raising your hand and saying, I need some help. Mental health, mental wellness. When somebody pulls a hammy or has any kind of physical ailment, when I go through cancer, but you talk about somebody who has a mental issue, there's no difference. And we shouldn't look at it differently.
No, I'm so happy you included this in the book. There's so much in here, and it's really, we felt the love from the pages from this conversation with you. I have one more question, and I think this will be a good one to end on from the audience. They say, congratulations on your new book. Now that it's out, is there an additional story, person, or experience that you wish you could have included?
Oh, wow. I can honestly say, let's see. I talked about going to counseling with Amber. I talked about.
There's a lot in here, Robin.
there's a lot in here, but no, I can honestly say, but you know what? I can't wait to see. I'm trying to think about my mama said. Like, I'm proud of the book, and I'm glad it's being well received, and that I've shared so much. And I don't want to rest on my laurels. I remember with Mama, we would say, is there a gift we can give you, Mama? We gave her everything. But you get to a certain age, and what more can you give somebody? I'm not talking about big things. I'm just talking about gifts in general. And I was like, Mama, what do you want? What can we make for you? What can we do? And she would just sweetly say, let's make a new memory together. She didn't want to just live off the old memories. She wanted to make some new memories. And I feel that I'm going to make some new memories, and who knows, maybe I'll have another book. But this one right now, it's there. It's where I am now, and it's what I'm sharing with folks. But these are great questions from the audience.
Amazing. And you are awesome as always. And thank you so much for sharing your heart with us in this book. I really feel like every chapter I was like, ooh, it's like so many nuggets. And I like that you can really just go for what you need and get the nourishment you need from each chapter wherever you are in your life. So thank you so much, Robin, for joining us today. We so appreciate you discussing your new book, Brighter by the Day. And for everyone out there who has been joining us, we encourage you to pick up your copy of Robin's new book at your local bookstore. And if you would like to watch more programs or to support the Commonwealth Club's efforts in making virtual and in-person programming possible, you can visit commonwealthclub.org/events. I'm Kumasi Aaron. Thank you so much for being with us, and take care.
Thank you.
Bye.